Welcome back to Safely Divergent. Get the countdown again. so divergent.
We're good. I think we're done with the episode today.
All right. Welcome back to Safely Divergent. We're your hosts. I'm Eleanor.
And I am Kirsty.
Well, hey, Kirsty.
What is up, Smelly?
Not,
God.
How are you?
I'm good.
So hit me, Kirst. What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to be we always talk about stress, right? So we're going to be talking about how we break down and identify our stressors, which connects directly to my good pal, Dr. Stuart Shanker, and his Self-Reg framework.
So we originally, just like a little background information, we've heard about Dr. Stuart Shanker and his Self-Reg book for almost a decade now. I was listening to an awesome young man, Grant Glasgow, and as he was talking about how this book, like specifically this book by Stuart Shanker, changed his life and changed his motivation and just a huge piece of him becoming who he is. In that moment, like literally mid-presentation, I ordered the book, Self-Reg, and you read it first, and it changed your life.
While reading it, it was one of those books that was changing me in the process, but I didn't realize how much it was going to help with understanding my stressors and understanding myself in a way that then I could explain to you what was going on and how I needed to approach things to start to jump off of the roller coaster that I seem to be riding. So, love this book. Love this man.
He doesn't know we exist, but we admire him. But the thing that's neat about what he does in his book and his practice is he looks at stress and separates into these 5 domains. It's not like, clear cut perfectly when you think about one area or one stressor. It doesn't fit perfectly into it, but it's a really good framework. It's a really good way to kind of look at our environment, look at our life, and organize these different stressors. So for today's episode, we're going to go through these 5 different domains one at a time and kind of talk about, okay, what does this look like? And then what are some common stressors and some stressors that we experience within each domain?
And why is it so important to pinpoint your specific stressors?
So you can help accommodate them and reduce them.
Exactly. Because when we're just looking at stress as a whole, I'm stressed out. The approach to that is question mark. I don't know how to approach it. Whereas when I can really specifically understand where my stressors are coming from, then it's like, okay, now I can break this down and have success without being overwhelmed by the thought of approaching my stress. So let's dive into it. What do we have first?
Okay, so the first domain that we're going to dive into is called the biological domain. Kirst, fill us in about that.
This is all about how your body handles energy. How much you've got, how much you're using, how well you can recharge if you deplete your system, things like sleep, nutrition, movement, if you're sick, sensory stuff, and your nervous system doing its behind the scene things that we don't even think of, like just the basics of breathing. Everyone's energy in, energy out balance looks different, and stress in this area can show up as low energy, restlessness, stomach aches, just feeling off.
And there are some of these that are really obvious and are really easy to identify in our environment. And then there are some that are a little sneakier. But whether it's an obvious one or a sneaky one, they can all throw our system off. So maybe, Kirst, we can talk about some that affect us, like we know that are pretty common for us. So what are some obvious stressors that you deal with?
I have 6 different layers because if I am warm, avoid me at all costs. I am not enjoyable.
I like to play a fun game when we go for a walk. I have a number in my head of how many times you're going to take on and take off like your layers. And it's like never under 8 of on, off.
I can't argue with you.
You're a little chilly, put it back on. Okay, we got back into the sun, take it back off. And it's just this forever game. But I mean, you do that to accommodate yourself because you do not do well when you're overheated.
All right, enough about me. That was super fun, but
I know
let's
this is
hear
going to be
about
fun. It's like, okay, what are all of our things, our things that set us off?
what are your obvious stressors?
I think I've talked about it on the podcast already, but like bright lights. So like that could be like at a grocery store or like a Walmart, but also just like the sun. Like I want to wear sunglasses on cloudy days. I want to wear sunglasses indoors sometimes. Like I just don't like being in really bright environments. And then like similarly, like uncomfortable clothing. If my pants are too tight or like it's a situation where I'm like constantly like adjusting my clothes, like that drives me crazy. And that's like all I can think about.
Yeah.
Hence why we are comfort creatures and wear our comfiest clothes.
I really love comfy clothes. But what about some of those more hidden stressors?
So one that I've noticed for myself is like not getting enough exercise or enough movement in a day. And I think there's a lot of different outcomes of this, but one area that I can very clearly notice a difference, if I don't get a good exercise in, I cannot fall asleep. It affects my sleep so directly. And so, I mean, that is like a big motivator for me to get outside and go for a walk or to go to the gym and pump some iron with you.
Like, I'm really thankful for your dedication to this because I used to be a once a week workouter, but after just like seeing how much it's helped you, you've helped me to really gain this intrinsic motivation of I feel so much better after I work out in a day. My mood's better, my energy levels are better. So this is one that's kind of now I see that connection and really buy into exercise daily.
Well, and another thing that comes to my mind too, and this is just a little random, but thinking about like, remember back when we were in school and you would sit in like really uncomfortable desks for how long is a school day? Like 8 hours or something like that without like really getting up and moving. And you're just in these hard desks and just like so uncomfortable. Can you imagine doing that now?
No.
I'm sitting cross-legged on a couch, like holding a pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll probably have to get up and move as soon as we finish this section. I can't imagine having to do that now. It's crazy that we had to do that until we were 18 years old or we were expected to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are so many stressors that go into this biological domain, right? We could go on and on and on, and we're going to keep coming back to it. I mean, because honestly, the list is endless. I feel like you could walk into a room and be like, okay, these are the biological stressors in this space. And then you walk outside and these are the biological stressors in this space. We're going to keep coming back to it, but we wanted to just touch on it before we move on to the next one.
The emotion domain. This one's all about observing the energy behind our emotions, not whether the feelings are good or bad, but how intense and overwhelming they can be. It's not about the things that caused the feeling. It's about how much our nervous system gets revved up. So when we're regulated, we'll notice what we're feeling. We'll figure out if it fits the moments. We often have this conversation with our students and now apply it to ourselves. Well, you apply it to me or try to help me figure this out where is this a big deal or is this a little deal? And from there, calm ourselves if needed. But when we're emotionally flooded, there is zero access to this self-check process.
So, Chris, what emotion stressors that fit under this domain stand out to you?
A big one that stands out to me is anticipating an upcoming event. If we have travel, if we have a wedding, if we have people coming to visit, this really consumes me. I can't just go on with my typical day. And even beyond that, if I have a meeting that's out of the norm, say it's at noon, my morning's pretty much capped because I'm anticipating that event. The best I can do is stay in routine and try to get some things knocked out. But I know this about myself.
Yeah, because and that pulls into another one, right? A change in routine in general. Yeah, that can be a big stressor.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one I know for me is like if I have a big work project coming up, like for example, I'm helping out with a conference. And it's a small conference and a lot of it's been planned for a long time, but I always have like this like lingering to-do list of like, oh, I should be getting this and this done before, the next meeting, before the next deadline. And so it's like when you have those big projects or big things coming up and you can't officially cross it off until that time comes, that can be stressful too, because it's always just lingering there in the back of your mind, like I should be doing more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these that we talked about, they weren't the negative emotions we tend to think of. They're overarchingly positive experiences, but nonetheless, they still drain out our energy reserves. And if we aren't aware of that, it can really tie up and connect with our biological domain. So frequently, Elle, when you have these conferences, what happens the week after?
Oh, I'm sick. I get
Almost
stress
always.
sick. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
These two domains really link up with each other. And if we drain out our energy reserves because we have these anticipatory events or we're, trying to help someone through a hard time, whatever it be, it connects with the biological domain. We're no longer exercising. We're not aware of what we're eating. And we land on our bums because we get real sick like. So the emotion domain. This is a big one. I feel like we covered a good portion of it. There's, again, so many others that we couldn't possibly go through all of them. We're going to continue to put out resources. We're going to talk about these things a lot because I got to stay true to my man, Stewie.
Oh.
Okay, so maybe we move on to the next domain.
Swiftly moving on. The third domain that we're going to cover, cognitive domain.
This one's all about the mental load. Things like paying attention, remembering stuff, problem solving, switching gears, trying to get through tasks without melting down.
Easier said than done sometimes.
I'm not pointing at myself. When this domain is overworked, it might look like zoning out, avoiding our to-do lists, getting stuck between tasks, losing track of what we're doing, forgetting why we are in a room. It's not always a I can't focus problem. Sometimes the brain is just out of gas because our other domains, like the emotion and biological domain, are already using up all of our energy reserves. So we just talked about those situations where that can frequently happen of too much to do with our emotional load. Now we are sick. You try to get something done when those two are spiraling in themselves, you're not going to have access to that upper portion of our brain, that blue brain, our upstairs brain. And when you try to do cognitive heavy tasks, when you are running low in your energy reserve, it is no good.
It's not easy. A huge example for me, this is one of my biggest stressors across the board, period, is making decisions. And this can be like a big deal thing of like, where are we gonna move to? It can be a tiny thing of, should we use ground beef or ground turkey for dinner? I mean, like, it doesn't matter the size of it. I get decision paralysis, and making choices is really difficult for me. Do you have any examples that come to your mind, Kars?
So when someone asks me something very specific, say, what's your favorite movie?
You hate those questions.
I will spiral, and I cannot come up with it. So you've worked with me to just come up with a list of like, okay, this is an appropriate one in this situation, and this is an appropriate one in this situation, because I don't know how to answer that question without just divulging and asking that person 19 questions to really understand what they want from me.
Right. And like when somebody asks you, hey, what's your favorite movie? They're not trying to put that pressure on you of like, okay, think back to every movie you've ever seen. What's your favorite one? Or like, do they mean the one that I could watch on repeat? They're not trying to be that deep about it. They're just doing a fun get to know you type question. But you take it so seriously and think about like all the factors in it. So yeah, we accommodate it by just having your like one or two go-tos, and then I don't know, do you even like those movies? I don't know, but
it depends on the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a tough one for me.
Okay, so 3 domains down. We have 2 more to go, and they are both dealing with like our social engagement system. So the first one is the social domain.
Yeah, this is all about how we connect with other humans. So reading the room, like you just talked about, they don't need all of my details of why that movie's my favorite. Picking up on facial expressions or tone of voice, knowing when to jump in or back off in a combo, and figuring out how our actions, how those affect the people that we're communicating with.
Right. So when we're regulated, we can connect, we can communicate, we can, navigate different group dynamics, and we can tackle tricky or more complicated social moments. But when we're dysregulated, when we have all these stressors piled up in us, we might straight up avoid social situations. We might miss cues more frequently. We might interrupt others or, over talk or talk over people, just kind of in general feel out of sync in a group sitting. And then also those are the situations too, where it's like the next day you analyze every little thing you said and every interaction you had. That's what we do when we're dysregulated. That's not where we want to be. That's not our goal.
Yeah. And I think the problem here is if we get stuck here, we very well might become super resistant to engage in these social events or plan them in the future. Engaging with others in safe, positive ways calms our stress response and is exactly what we need to regulate and recharge.
Exactly. So, Chris, what are some social domain stressors that stand out to you?
I might have a tendency to overgeneralize facial expressions or tone of voice.
Might being the key word there.
Might. Right? Yeah. I might. So if someone has a down face or a monotone voice, I tend to pick up on a few emotions: mad, sad, happy. And so this is something I'm really working on because we've talked about this. I can't expect other people to rise up so that I can read their cues. This is something that's very common for a lot of neurodivergent people, is not knowing how to always interpret these cues that we're being sent. So I think that might be a big one for me. How about you?
I think one for me is meeting someone new. Again, like we talked about, like not all stress is bad stress. Meeting new people is important and exciting. For me, I do have like that sense of pressure, especially if it's someone that I know is like going to be an important part of my life. Like, for example, like meeting my sister's new boyfriend at the time, right? Not only like, are you concerned about what they're going to think of you or whatever, but like you want to make them feel comfortable and all that stuff. So meeting new people can be a stressor, even if it is a good thing.
That is a really big stressor for me as well, or used to be more when I didn't have tools to downregulate my nervous system, because I could convince myself like, this is going to be scary. You're going to say something wrong. They're not going to like you. And just building up a moment, anticipating a moment. And so it's those things where, again, if we build these things up and we push ourselves away from doing them, we lose out on the potential recharge that they could have, but also understanding that for some people, they aren't always successful. And it's finding the right person or persons that allow you to feel safe and comfortable in those situations. You don't need a whole crowd. You need one person. Start with one person. If you can get that one person and feel confident and comfortable with them, then you can build to 2 people in a group, 3 people in a group. We don't have to jump right into a room full of people.
All right, so the 5th and final domain is the prosocial domain. So here's the difference. The social domain is about connection. So we were talking about reading cues, joining in on a conversation, knowing when to speak up or take a step back. But the prosocial domain goes deeper. It's more about care and compassion. It's taking on someone else's feelings, maybe things like sensing injustice or putting another person's needs ahead of your own, kind of like this idea of empathy.
But when we're under a heavy stress load, we might feel anxious in group settings, withdrawn, because things just feel off. Or something I experience frequently is kind of tangled in that like shoulda, coulda, woulda guilt loop. And when you feel like you should care, but can't even handle your own feelings, that's prosocial burnout, not lack of compassion. We're not bad people. Our body is just protecting us. And when we're regulated in this domain, we can empathize with others while still staying grounded. We can care deeply without getting overwhelmed, because I feel like we've both experienced this, like where you tell someone something. For example, let's say I told someone I interviewed for a job and I really thought I had a good chance at it, but I didn't get it. And you get this response of, oh,
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm more affected by that response than not getting the job. Like, that is really what I've come to know as the difference between empathy and compassion.
Yeah, I think we should kind of talk about that a little bit, right? So empathy is feeling what someone else feels, putting yourselves in their shoes. We absorb their emotions, sometimes so much that it can add to their overwhelm and ours.
Whereas compassion is caring about what they feel with enough internal safety. You're not in a stress response. You're regulated, so you can offer help without becoming overwhelmed yourself or adding more emotional weight to the moment and to that person.
Totally. So I know for me, the prosocial domain, this is my big one. This is the one that causes me probably more stress than maybe all the other ones combined. I'm definitely, and I know you are too, over empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's a really great skill, but it can also become a huge stressor if you're giving so much energy and effort to other people's feelings that it takes a toll on ours.
And often I find in this, we really have had to work on ourselves of there's times where we need to put ourselves first before we help someone else. Like you're on an airplane and they say, put on your oxygen mask first before you apply it to others. Because so frequently we burn ourselves out trying to help other people that we're not really offering much of ourselves because our energy tank is drained and we can't fill up someone else with a drained energy tank.
So put on our mask before helping others.
Exactly.
A huge thing for me. I mean, I'm definitely just overgeneralized. I'm a people pleaser, right? And within that, I hate when people have to wait for me. And you know this. Like if I tell someone I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time and I know that they're meeting me there at that time, I'm going to be there. And if I'm not, it's going to cause me a lot of stress.
Whereas time constraint is such a heavy stressor for me and can really have me spiral a bit. And I don't want to be like super late, but if it means that I get to show up and be the better version of myself, I'm going to choose or I'm going to communicate that, hey, I need to be 10, 15, 20 minutes late so I can show up as my best self. And that's where we have to work with each other. And we've done good things of like, hey, you go ahead. I'll get there. I'll meet you there. But this is what I need to show up. And you're like, hey, for me to show up and be the best version of myself, I need to be on time. I need to be 5 minutes early, waiting to get in when I see them walking in. We have different needs there. And I think that's just really important as both really high prosocial stressors, but just how we approach them has to be different because we're very unique.
All right, Chris, do you have any other examples you'd like to share in this one?
This is a heavy one for me as well. I feel like I walk into a room and I am bombarded by the emotions of the room. I think on one side, wonderful, great skill. On the other side, it's a weight. Going to a farmer's market or going to a store that is small, like
small business.
Yeah, small business nope, no thank you. Because I feel like I can't look at anything. I looked at something, so therefore I should have bought that something. But I'm overwhelmed in any of those situations. This could be fruit at a stand. I don't want to tell a farmer I don't approve of his fruit.
It's not even that you don't approve, but you can't buy fruit at every stand at a farmer's market.
If I'm going to go to a farmer's market, I'm going to buy fruit at every stand that I even remotely give a vibe to because I have to.
Which is why I go to the farmer's market by myself.
And why, if we're ever like in a town and they have cool shops, I'm like, I'll sit outside on the bench and then just ask you to tell me how the shop was. It's not for me.
Not worth the stress.
It's not worth the stress.
Oh, prosocial. What a fun domain. All right, Kirsty, we went through the 5. We talked about biological, emotional, cognitive, social, and prosocial. That's how Dr. Stuart Shanker organizes and divides up these different areas of stressors in our life. There's so much more that we can and that we will say about these, but we just wanted to give an overview because understanding these domains has been really, really helpful for us in creating meaningful accommodations and helping us express our needs, also helping others apply that to their own lives.
Yeah, I'm still learning more stressors and ways to accommodate myself through this framework. I just will continue to come back to it. It is a journey. It is becoming safely divergent, and this is a wonderful tool in the path to becoming safely divergent.
Fabulous. All right, let's switch it up. Let's look inside of my scattered brain.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I saw this TikTok by a creator who was named Ray Lewis that said the entire state of Wyoming has only 2 escalators. Have you ever heard that before?
No.
Okay, so naturally I did a dive into escalators. And he was spot on. Okay, so I love this is from the Cowboy State Daily, which is a newspaper in Wyoming. So Wyoming does only have 2 escalators. One is in the town of Casper at the Hilltop National Bank and the First Interstate Bank. Okay, so the escalators were part of the original designs of the buildings, and they were built in 1958 and 1979. So since 1979, they have not built a new escalator in Wyoming.
Are there not malls in Wyoming?
Not
double-storied malls?
Not double-storied malls. So it says that there used to be a 3rd set of escalators at a Cheyenne J.C. Penney building.
I was going to say, I can't imagine a J.C. Penney's or like a Macy's without a escalator in it.
A single story, I guess. So the president, or I guess the CEO of that Hilltop Bank, he said, quote, typically escalators are used in mall settings, where you have a lot of stores and a lot of people are, going up and down levels. They just don't have them in Wyoming, right? He says, we don't have a lot of those in Wyoming. So I did a little digging on other escalator history. So the first working escalator was installed alongside the pier at Coney Island, so in New York, and this was in 1896. So escalators have been around for a minute. And I can't imagine that they've like changed terribly in that time, right? Like the technology isn't like evolving in a crazy speed.
There's just someone under there like pulling it, right?
Yeah, maybe. In the 1896 version, yeah. Okay, so I have some escalator facts for you.
Hit me.
The average angle of incline, so like the degree at which it's going up, is usually 30 to 35 degrees from the ground, which I was thinking, I'm like, have you ever been on one where you're like, wow, this seems like a really steep escalator?
I don't think so.
I'm trying to think. I feel like when you go to New York and you're going like down to the subways, I feel like those are really steep. Like I feel like I've been on escalators before where I'm like, I feel like this is straight up. So I didn't realize that there was such a variation in the angle it can be, but average 30 to 35 degrees. The average speed is 1 to 3 feet per second. And it's kind of, again, I feel like I've been on them before where I'm like, okay, this is a little speedier. I hate riding escalators, by the way. I'm just always imagining every weird freak accident that could happen. But
don't you have a bad escalator story?
When I was little at the Mall of America in Minneapolis, and I got down to the bottom and my shoelace got stuck and I fell over. My dad had to pull me out, which I feel like could have been quite bad. I don't know. I guess most of them have like emergency stop buttons, but hold that thought because we'll get to it. The longest escalator in the world is in Hong Kong, and it's the Central Hillside escalator, and it's almost half a mile, and it takes 20 minutes to ride it.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
What if you changed your mind? Or you had to go to the bathroom?
I don't know. I feel like once you're on it, you're committed. Okay, and then this was me. There's an estimated 17,000 people every year that are injured on escalators.
Oh, no.
So I'm not the only one with a trauma story. But yeah, getting back to that now, like, because what I used to do as a kid is I wouldn't step off of it. I would just have it like push me off, when you get to the end. And that's what I did. And so now I like make a point. I like march over the end point.
How old were you when that happened?
Like 7 or 8, yeah.
So 20 plus years later.
Oh, yeah.
And you're still high-stepping off your escalators.
Okay, so the accidents. This leads us to our fun little game show titled Escalator. Hardly know her. Okay, so I want to ask you some accident-related questions. Okay, so what body part is most commonly injured in escalator accidents? A, arm, B, leg, or C, hand? Arm, leg, hand.
Leg.
Yep. Yeah, right. Because I think a lot of times people just like lose balance or they trip at the top or the bottom or you know,
The shoe gets
shoelaces.
stuck and they gotta yank it
Yeah.
out of there.
hmm Okay. All right. 1 for 1.
Yes.
Number 2, which group is most at risk for escalated injuries? A, elderly adults. B, toddlers. C, teens with phones.
Ooh, I was really thinking toddler, but now I think teens with phones.
Just the distractions. Like you're just like not.
No, I'm going back to toddler.
Okay, well, either one's wrong. So it's A, elderly adults. And I think it's just because it's a moving staircase, right? It's like a balancing nightmare.
Well, I feel like each day I get older, I get worse vertigo. So
I get vertigo almost anytime I'm on an escalator.
I could see you would just lose your balance and
especially, if you have to step off. And okay, final question for escalator. Hardly know her. Which clothing item is most infamous for causing escalator injuries? A,
nightgown.
How many times have you worn a nightgown on an escalator?
I just saw a show once where the nightgown got stuck and then the person didn't have any clothes on.
Modern Family.
Yes.
Okay, that's not one of the options. Oh, I guess it kind of is. Okay, so either A, high heels, B, Crocs, or C, long skirts.
Ooh, I think I'll go long skirts.
But it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Or shoelaces was not an option, but that would be on there. It's actually Crocs.
Really?
Yeah.
So that would have been my last option.
I was surprised to see this. So the squishy rubber, can really easily get sucked into it.
Whoa.
So it says there was actually lawsuits from parents after their kids' Crocs got eaten by escalators.
Isn't there like sport mode where you put like the flap on the back down? Hopefully you weren't in sport mode when that happened.
And your foot just goes in there with it.
Ooh.
You did pretty well.
Hey.
33%. Not so bad.
I'll take it. If I get one right, that's my win for the week.
Well, we are feeling scattered this week, so all right. That's a wrap, Curse.
That is a wrap. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you loved the episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or follow and subscribe on Spotify. For a deeper dive into this week's topic, follow us on social media at Safely Divergent and check out our blog at safelydivergent.com. Our cover art is by Honor Heindel and our music by Obey Gray. As a reminder, we're just two people with microphones, a lot of thoughts, and some highly questionable hyperfixations. We're not your therapists, doctors, or life coaches, so please do not base major life decisions on our couch chats. Until next time, we hope your nervous system stays safe and social, and your to-do list magically does itself.